Welcome, my beautiful people, to STR News and Digest, your go-to place for everything related to travel, STR, and the business of hospitality. I'm going to right off the bat apologize. I am in North Georgia this week, and the Wi-Fi here really sucks, man. I barely have signal because we're in the mountains. So if there's any issues, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the live stream. But we will take this down if we see that the live stream is not great. And then, because we're also recording most of the stuff, then we will go ahead and make sure it's all good and then repost it. So if you can't catch something or something it's not being presented right, meaning you can't hear it or it locks up on me or freezes up on me, don't worry about it. Just tune in tomorrow morning and everything will be back up. All right, let me go through my list of stuff that I'm going to talk about today. Also, as always, if you have any questions, any comments, list them in the chat, and then we'll get to them as towards the end. Let me do something. Let me see something. We'll list them towards the end as we're going along. Just make sure I'm good to go here. Media. Okay. All right, guys. Let's go ahead. All right. The first thing I want to talk about today is first of all, let me talk about what I'm doing here in Georgia, because it's going to follow. It's going to lead into the first thing I'm going to talk about in this segment. So I'm here in Georgia. One of my goals for this trip was to test out some of the e-bikes for my other channel. Again, I have another channel that's completely separate from this channel. And that channel, it's all about e-bikes, the hustle of e-bikes, how to save money, make money with e-bikes. So if you're interested in that content, go there. But I am here and I did some rides. And one of the things that I want to talk about in this segment is the fact that I personally highly recommend when you're on vacation to not take a car or an Uber. I can't tell you how much you miss when you do that. Now, I'm going to say that with the caveat that I fully understand that there's a lot of people out there that don't have the ability to ride a bike, right? Either because you've never ridden a bike or don't know how to ride a bike, or are afraid of being on a bike. So this really isn't for you, but I firmly believe that the majority of people watching can take advantage of using an alternative form of transportation when you travel. If you follow this channel, I've been preaching this for a very long time. I personally, every time I travel, I personally avoid getting in a car. I either rent a scooter, as you've seen, I've done that in Europe, I've done it in Cartagena, I've done it all over the world, or I rent a bike or an e-bike, right? But that's the form of transportation that I want to use when I'm on vacation, right? When I'm traveling, I want to see as much as I possibly can, especially if I'm limited in time. Most people only travel for 7 days or less. And if you're going to Europe, you really only have 5 days because 1 day is a travel day, 2 days are travel days, right? And then your first day, you have to get, used to the city or depending on where you're traveling to. But the point is that you're very limited, and wasting time being in the car, or for me, being in the car is a waste of time because you really do miss a lot. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should use an e-bike or probably more, but I'm going to give you 5 key reasons why you should use a bike or use an alternative form of transportation. Number one, it's going to be the savings, right? Renting a car is expensive or can get expensive, especially if you're going to a major city like Madrid, you're going to New York City, um, something like that, maybe the car can be expensive. Why? Because not only are you paying for the cost of the car, but for example, in Europe, gas is not cheap, people, and parking is premium, meaning you're going to pay a premium dollar to park, right? So you're going to save a lot of money by not using a car, right? The other thing is what I like to call the term that I like to say is door to door freedom. It, especially an e-bike, will give you a lot of freedom. You can take that bike all the way up to the front door of your house or your Airbnb or your hotel, whatever you rent, just take it right in, right? So I refer to it as VIP parking. Anywhere you go, you can park wherever. Just make sure, depending on where you're at, you just have to make sure that you lock it so that if you're in a high crime area and nobody steals it, right? But most places that I've traveled to, I really didn't even have to lock it up. I just parked it wherever I needed to park. Like, for example, on this trip, I went to the historical area of downtown LOJ or LJ, however you want to pronounce this town. And I had lunch in town. And I just parked the bike right in front of the restaurant. I didn't even lock it. Parked the bike, went inside, ate, came out, took off, right? And on top of that, in downtown LJ, that even though it's a very small town, and if you subscribe to my What Hustle channel, you'll see the video. It's a very small little town, but the traffic was insane, right? There was a long line of traffic just to get into the turnaround where the center is of the town. It wasn't for me. I just rode along the side of the street. A couple of times I had to get on the sidewalk, but I rode alongside of the street. So traffic wasn't an issue. So you do get a lot of freedom because you get to skip a lot of the stuff and less headaches than you do on a car, right? Next, I kind of already mentioned this, but you get to see more when you're on a bike, a lot more, right? And when I say a bike, it could be a scooter because in Puerto Rico, I rented a scooter. I went all over San Juan, Viejo San Juan, on a scooter. In Madrid, I went on a scooter everywhere. It was easier than actually having a bike, so I did it on a scooter. So they go hand in hand, but the point is alternative forms of transportation, right? But you get to see more, especially if you're in an area. I'm going to give you some places where the hills are insane, right? If you go to Lisbon, my God, the hills in Lisbon are crazy, right? So on an e-bike, those hills, you can conquer them easy. Here in LJ, again, I've done a lot of content here. I've been traveling a lot. The hills, which for me are mountains, are insane. No way I can go up these mountains on a regular bike. So an e-bike was very helpful here. Here's another thing what we did here, right? There's a national park here, and there's a place called the Falls, right? At that park, the Falls, I went on the bike, and my friends that were here, they drove there. And even though this is a rural area, very spread out, right? Meaning if you're in a car, technically you're not hitting all the traffic lights that you get in a major city, but I still got there only minutes behind them. So it wasn't like they had a huge advantage on me, right? They didn't. And in the process, though, I got to see and stop to take pictures very easily. And again, I'm doing several videos on this trip. So, and some of them I will post on this channel. As a matter of fact, I will post some of those videos on this channel. So, so stay tuned for that. So you get to see everything I got to see when I was riding through these mountains. But I'm going to go back to when I went to Switzerland, right? In May, I went to Switzerland. We rode e-bikes throughout Switzerland. And even on that trip, I was able to see and go through roads that you can't go in the car. So I was able to see a lot more than had I been in a car, right? So that's the second reason why. The next is what I call a micro adventure, right? On an e-bike, depending on where you go, but I'm going to give you some examples. You can hit boardwalks, right? You can hit waterfront paths, like for example, Las Olas. In Fort Lauderdale, you can take the water path, right, throughout Las Olas and Fort Lauderdale. You can't go on there on a car, but you can do that on a bike. So you can do that. You can go towards the beach areas. You can ride through that. You can ride again. I just talked about LJ Old Town. You can go through Old Town, not have to fight the traffic that everybody was fighting to get to Old Town. You can go through there quicker, faster, and actually see more. The tip number 4, I already talked about it, but it's just about your wallet. The savings that you have versus renting a car are great or greater when you have an e-bike. And then the last tip that I'll give you related to this is just about health, wellness, and the joy factor. Now, I'm a big fan of riding bikes, always have been. I was like a little kid in a candy shop riding the bike through these mountains, winding mountains, coming down, pushing the limits. There's one at one time though, I almost pushed the limits too much. But you don't have to do what I do, right? You don't have to ride that red line all the time like I do. But it was just freaking great. I enjoyed everything. In addition to that, when we went to the several national parks that I went to, I was able to go off the beaten path and actually go through the forest with the bike. I mean, it's just, I can't speak highly enough. Now, here's a tip for those of you that are hosts. If you are a host, jump on the bandwagon and take advantage of it. I do this, right? So one of the things I highly recommend is that you advertise and market the nearby parks, bike paths. If you're not going to have your own rentals, advertise a local rental bike company. And if you can, create some kind of partnership or collaboration with that bike rental store so that you can profit from that. But the idea is that you promote that. Why? Because if any guest that likes to ride bike, if they actually rent a bike during their stay, they're going to have a better experience. And even though they're having a better experience outside of your home, that is still going to give you, or you're going to reap the benefits of that because they're going to give you a better review. And having great reviews is really important in this business. So take advantage of that. Here's a couple of things that you can do as well. Even if you don't have a bike to rent, but if you're offering that service to a bike company, you can actually get some helmets, right? They're cheap, and keep them in your property and add that as an accessory if they actually book it, so they don't have to pay for that when they rent it, right? So, and also, depending on where you go, like for example, in Colombia, specifically Bogota, in Madrid, in Milan, a lot of these major cities also have the city-run bikes. But they're not going to give you a helmet there. But if you provide that to your guests, provide a helmet, provide a lock, right? You can provide some safety gear if you want as well. If you provide that, for your guests, chances are that it'll be more likely that they decide to say, hey, this is here. Why don't we rent the bike? And again, if they do that, they're going to see more. They're going to have more fun, and you will reap the benefits of that. All right. Let me move on to the next thing I want to talk about, because I've talked about this in the last 2 STR news, and that's about the government shutdown. I'm still hearing people say on the news as well, which is what drives me crazy, that the government shutdown is negatively affecting travel. And to be honest, it is not. And here's why, right? Number one, TSA are essential personnel. They have to come to work. Now, will they start calling out sick if they're not getting paid? Yes. I used to be a government worker, right? I would do that. So there may be some shortage in some areas, but I haven't found it. And I've been traveling since the government shutdown. I haven't had any issues. Passports and visas, right? People are saying, hey, reporters are reporting that people can't get visas or passport. That's a flat out lie. Passports are not affected by the government shutdown because they're self-funded. You have to pay a fee for that. So they're not dependent on the government for that. So it's not affecting that. I've already talked about TSA. Now, where TSA global entry pre-check screen, TSA pre-checks, they're still working, and I actually confirmed that before I came on. They're still operational. Now, again, I'm going to say this in terms of the delays. Maybe some person called out sick, so maybe there'll be less staff because somebody's calling out sick as a result of this government shutdown. So there may be some delay, some longer waits. Let me put it that way, longer waits. But the point here is that it's operational. They're not shut down like some news medias are saying that it's closed. You can't get a passport, can't get a visa. That's not true. And then the last one are the national parks. I just went to a national park. I went to 2 national parks here in Georgia. They're open, people. There's no issues. You're not going to have problems going to a national park. Now, I don't know because, again, it's reported, and I tend not to believe it now because I'm going through other areas. It's reported that in the national parks in D.C., those are having issues because of the government shutdown, right? But I highly recommend you look into that. Then the last thing is for international travel. People are saying that Immigration and Border Patrol is shut down. It's not shut down, people. They're essential. They're open. I flew in from Colombia recently. I flew in from Europe. I'm sorry, not Colombia. It was Europe. 2 weeks ago or last week, I flew in from Europe. It's open. No, there's no issue there. If you are if you're a host, and I recommend that you educate the people coming, let them know, do your checks, right? But send an email, send some kind of communication to your guests that are coming during this time, and let them know if there's any issues, right? Be very proactive during this time. Really important. Be very proactive so that people don't cancel on you, right? Because if the airport's open, there's no issue in immigration, and people cancel because they're hearing on the media, on the news that is shut down, then bad on you for not correcting that, right? So next, let's talk about Southwest Airline. I've been talking about them for a long time, right? Because they have made a dramatic change. Southwest, Spirit Airline, a lot of these airlines are shifting the way they operate, but Southwest has made the most drastic changes. I've talked about it, so I'm not going to go into full detail. But in Q3, the CEO just came out and released their earnings, and it wasn't surprising to me, but it's apparently it was surprising to a lot of people that in Q3, Southwest Airlines saw an increase in demand, right? I'm going to just read from the actual report. It says the carriers' mid-year changes in revenue strategies appear to be gaining traction. And in Q3, they saw an increase in revenue. In Q3, they saw it started trending upward, but in Q4, there was definitely a plus in terms of revenue for Southwest Airlines. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because you don't fly Southwest, but basically Southwest scrapped everything that they were known for, right? Free bags, sit anywhere. They scrapped all that. Now they have premium seating. They're looking to get some business class seats. Now they're assigning seats. Now you have to pay for your second or third bag, whatever it is, if you don't have status. So they shifted all that. But at the end of the day, so far, it has been a plus for Southwest. And a lot of people thought it was going to be the end of Southwest because of those changes. Turned out not to be the case. Now, I kind of figured that because I've been talking about this before. The premium in travel, premium business or luxury has been on the uptick, right? There's what the those areas or those divisions within the travel industry is what has sustained the travel industry in the last year, right? You know, people that can pay for it want premium, and those are the people that right now are traveling. We're not seeing a lot of the budget traveler anymore. They're not traveling as much, especially in Q3 and Q4 I'm sorry, Q3 of this year. So, anyways, it's sustaining that. So that's why it wasn't that much of a surprise for me. All right, next, I want to talk about AI and AI distribution. This was funny to me. Brian Chesky said that AI platforms like ChatGPT can distribute travel, but displacing OTA is going to be very difficult. Here, and I kind of agree with what he's saying here. OTAs are here to stay, but the reason OTAs are here to stay is because of AI, right? They're adapting. A lot of these OTAs have been adapting to AI. I've been talking about it in my business way back in 2024, right? I've been saying if you're not using AI to enhance your business, you're going to be left behind. While the travel industry, a lot of smart players in the travel industry understand this, and they have been implementing this back early on in 2024, and right now they're primed to stay ahead of the game. Expedia being one of them, Google being another one. Brian Chesky is talking about that, and because there's some fear, and justifiably so, that AI will take over, specifically the travel agencies, right? There's less and less need for them because ChatGPT can do it for you, right? But as I've always said, you're still going to need someone to verify what ChatGPT is giving you and to coordinate that kind of stuff. ChatGPT is great, but you got to remember it's only as good as the data that's inputted. You'll still need some firsthand knowledge of, for example, if you're traveling to Madrid, you can get some great itineraries for Madrid using ChatGPT. But having someone that's been there, that's done it, to confirm and verify, and specifically to confirm and verify if that itinerary is ideal for you. Every individual is going to be different. I'll talk about myself. I've already mentioned, I travel, I want to be on a bike or I want to be in a scooter. That's not for everyone, right? But ChatGPT needs to know that in order to give me what I want, right? Same thing for you. It needs to know you to give you what you want. So bottom line, they're even Brian Chesky, who people have been writing him off for a while now. He's been doing the right thing, using AI to adapt to the current market. Just like everyone else in this industry, I highly think that you should consider that. And again, if you're a host, you need to adapt AI, guys. You need to do that. Next, I want to talk about Japan. I've been talking about Japan for a while. Japan is killing it in the travel industry. Unlike many others, unlike many other people, like I've been talking about Spain, Madrid, Barcelona, Rome, some places in Greece, who have been fighting and pushing back against tourism. Japan is not. They're embracing it. They want more. But here's the catch now. If you're planning to go to Japan anytime soon, expect to pay more. The demand is so high, so great, that's going to cost you more to go to Japan in 2026. Why? Because Japan is placing a higher hotel tax for travelers. So if you're going to stay in a hotel, you're going to be paying more because they're increasing the taxes in 2026. And I saw that coming. You know, anytime there's a lot of demand, you're going to see increase in prices. I already saw it increases in hotel stays, but now not just are the rates higher, but now you're going to be paying more taxes as a result of that. So find your next hotspot, right? That's what I believe. I've been saying this as well for a very long time. Don't follow the trends. If, for example, when Barcelona became super hot, I've been saying, don't go to Barcelona. It's gotten too expensive. So same thing with Japan now. I've been preaching to go to Japan, but that was in the beginning of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. 2026, Japan's going to be super expensive. So find another hotspot to go to. And subscribe to this channel because I will be giving you the hotspots. I'm going to be doing in December, I'm going to be doing a prediction video for 2026 and some of the hotspots that I believe will be hot for 2026. So again, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you can know that. The last two things I want to talk about. The last two things I want to talk about is going to be the occupancy tax tactics for your property. We're about to get into another high season for most hosts, right? August, September, and part of October were slow season, but the second half of October, definitely November and December, they're going to be high season. For example, right now, if you're in the Blue Ridge area, in the mountains of North Carolina, South Carolina, here in Georgia, this is your season, right? October, November is where you're going to make the majority of your money because it's peak season. For example, here in North Georgia, there's just about every small town has a festival. When I got here, they had the Apple Festival, which was great. And again, I'll be showing some of that stuff on some of the videos coming up in the near future. But they had the Apple Festival. That was last weekend. This weekend, there's another the Pumpkin Festival right outside LJ. Point here is that there's lots of activities now in the fall here in the Blue Ridge area. And again, that includes South Carolina, North Carolina. So let's take advantage of that, right? And your occupancy rate is going to be hugely important. So what you should be doing now is make sure that you price your property based on the pace of demand, right? If you don't have a pricing software, again, you're falling behind because you really need a pricing software. But understand that now you have to be really looking at your analytics to see where the demands are, what days, what weekends are in high demand, to make sure that you're priced correctly. Be competitive with your pricing, but also don't leave money on the table. That's the big take back here. Watch and adjust not only your rates, but your stay, right? When I say stay, your minimum stays. I'm still a fan of having one-day minimums. I don't understand why a lot of you guys refuse to do that, but I'm a big fan of having one-day minimums, but only for the weekdays, not the weekends, only for the weekdays. And again, price it accordingly. If somebody's going to spend one night, make sure that the rate's high enough to cover everything, right? Don't discount that one night. But nonetheless, have a one-day minimum, especially during peak season. Why? Because hotels will most likely be sold out, and you have business travelers, you have people that get stuck because they made a reservation, something happened to that reservation, and they need that one-night stay. Take advantage of that, right? It's better to have one night booked than having no nights booked, but do it only for the weekends, right? Next, I kind of already touched on this, but surface amenities that convert. And here's what I mean by amenities that convert. I talked about bikes. Bikes convert. Storage, right? People come in early. You for whatever reason, your place is not, you don't either allow early check-in or it's not available, but give them the ability to drop off their bags, right? Find some kind of storage facility, or even yourself, or even in your property that you can store their bags while the property is being turned over for you to give them. That's going to be huge. That's a big plus. Next is kind of already touched on this. I wrote here, data-driven managers expand faster by using market benchmarks and ComStats insights to replicate the playbook locally, right? That's key. Every region or in this business is region dependent. And even more specifically, it's local based. So if you know in your area, there's going to be, like here, the Apple Festival, number one, market that so people know that, right? Marketing is huge here. Market that, but then price your property accordingly if you're seeing that other properties are being booked quickly, right? So then you want to market your property accordingly or price your property accordingly. Let me see what I got next. All right, that is going to be it for today. Lorena, do we have any questions?
Yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is going to be this one. Can you share one secret or strategy you personally use in your short-term rental business? Something most like gurus don't talk about.
Can you share one secret or strategy you personally use in your short-term rental business? Man, it's not none of it's a secret, right? I've already said that I'm not the brightest bulb, right? I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I do observe, and I know how to follow trends, right? And for me, the biggest strategy in any business doesn't have to be short-term rental business. The short-term rental business, the biggest strategy is establishing an email list so that you can market to. Having an email, I can't express how important it is to have an email list of past customers so that you can market to that past customer, especially if that past customer had a great experience with you, right? That is hugely important. And that's an area that surprisingly a lot of business owners don't take advantage of. So email list, number 2 is marketing, right? You got to have that email list so you can market to, but then the second big one is marketing. And when I say marketing, I mean all levels of marketing. And if you say you don't have money for marketing, number 1, I want to slap you. But number 2, there's free marketing, right? Social media is free, people. Market the crap out of that, but you have to grow your channel so that you can get more eyeballs. If you only have 10 followers, it doesn't matter if you have the best content in the world. Nobody's seen it. You're not going to be, no one's going to know that you're there. No one's going to know about you and your business. So those are the 2 components or 2 strategies that I do, but they're not a secret. But for me, that's what's true to heart.
Perfect. This question is from Instagram, but I put it here in YouTube so we can't. You can read it, and I can tell you. Like, in your opinion, what is the biggest mistake most hosts make when trying to scale from one to multiple properties?
Woo! The biggest mistake. There's a lot of mistakes they make, right? But if you are growing, right? If you are growing, then I'm going to say that the biggest mistake is control growth, right? A lot of people that have momentum and are growing have a tendency to grow too quickly, and they're not prepared for that, and they make mistakes. That is a big mistake, because then the quality of your services drop, which at the end of the day will hurt you. So a controlled growth is critical. But if you're not growing, right? There's 2 things here. If you're not growing, then the biggest mistake people make, outside of having the necessary tools, right? I'm gonna say that they do have the necessary tools. and I'll quickly go by what I believe is necessary: a PMS system, a pricing software, and a good, strong team. Right? Those are the necessary tools. Let's say you already have that in place. The biggest mistake, and I've already mentioned it, is marketing. You're not, for whatever reason, I don't, which for me, I don't comprehend this, but for whatever reason, people take marketing and the expense of marketing as like at the bottom of the totem pole. No, people, that should be number one. Yeah. I've always said, if I'm going to cut something, the last thing I'm cutting is marketing. That's the last thing. And if I'm cutting marketing, it's because I'm closing my doors, right? Because I'm shutting down the business. But that's the last thing I cut. So that I think it's the biggest mistake, is that people don't give the priority that it deserves. Don't give marketing the priority that it deserves.
Perfect. The third one is, if you could start over in the short-term rental business today, what's one thing you will not do the same way?
Okay. And I'm going to take myself back to the very beginning. When I started my business, I had a full-time job and I was doing it part-time. So that's what I would not do. I've said this about, many times before, but if this is the first time you're hearing it, then this is why I'm going to repeat it. When I started this business, for 2 years, I made zero money. Year one, I actually was bleeding money. I was losing a lot of money year one. Year two, I lost money, but it wasn't as much as year one. It wasn't until year three that I became profitable. So that if I were to do it over, I would have started full time in the beginning, because I would have cut that time in half. Because one of the reasons I think it took me so long to become profitable was because my first year and a half, I was doing it part time, even though I was working a ton of hours. Right? I say part time, but I was still putting in 8 to 10 hours a day on this business. But the problem was I had another full-time job that was taking me away from what was important, and that is growing and building the necessary steps, processes and procedures to make sure that my business was on solid ground. Right? I was learning the business, and it was just very difficult at that time. So that I would do different if I were to do it today. And then the second thing that I would do different, I wouldn't buy as many single family homes that I did. I should have bought more multi-unit families or more land that I can build on in off-market areas, like my vineyard in Georgia. Going back, I wish I would have done a lot more of that, because that's what's trending today, right? Now, I didn't know that, several years back when I started this business. I didn't know that. I didn't know we were going to be there. But I should have balanced it out a little bit more. Less single-family homes, more multi-unit homes, and more alternative accommodations.
Perfect. And the last one. How is the Florida short-term rental market this last quarter of the year?
Not good. It was actually not good at all. So when I say not good, it wasn't horrible, but it's just August, September's slow season. So we'll see what Q4 looks like at the end of after November, December. I'm looking at the November numbers. November is looking. October, we're finishing the month strong. November, it looks like we're doing okay, and December right now is unknown. So we'll see what happens. But in comparison to last year and years past, the numbers aren't, well. Revenue is good, but if you look at, I look at all the metrics. Revenue is fine, but we don't have the amount of, my occupancy rate is lower. RevPAR is a little lower than it were last year. So
Perfect. So that was the last question.
All right, my beautiful people. Again, do me a huge favor. If you're watching this on replay, go ahead and comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know who you are. Say hi or tell me you hated it. But say something. I just need you to comment on these videos. And again, also, if you have any questions, list them. I will answer them during next week's podcast. I'm glad the Wi-Fi stayed up. At least it appears like it was good. I didn't see on my end. I didn't see any issues.
It was perfect. It was
Okay,
good.
great. All right, my beautiful people. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.